Oh, section two. Section two is all about different ways of conducting research. We have two broad ways for that, descriptive research and experimental research. Descriptive research itself, it has five different methods into it. We have observation method, we have interviews, we have case study, we have correlational studies that I bet you know about them, and we have quasi-experimental studies. Then another way of conducting research, which is just so popular, is experimental research. Just be mindful that experimental research is different from quasi-experimental studies because quasi is just a part of descriptive research, but experimental itself is just a separate way. We're going to talk about the difference more. Okay, we're going to talk about the difference more. So, like one mutual point here about all those five methods in descriptive research is there is literally no manipulation in descriptive way. You're gonna be as objective as possible and you're gonna just observe the phenomena. Like you literally don't do anything in the middle of the experiment or in the middle of the research study. You are just unbiased totally. You're gonna just watch the whole thing. And you cannot tell cause and effect relationship. Okay. So there are going to be at least two ways of differentiation between experimental and descriptive. Number one, there is no manipulation. And number two, there is no like ever cause and effect relationship in descriptive. It's going to be exam question. It's going to be quiz question as well. So what is observational study? It is like naturalistic observation. You're gonna just it's just so popular for children because like it's not really ethical to do any sort of cause and effect relationships or experiments on children. So it's just better to just be as unbiased as possible and just observe them during the study. Here in observational studies, you're going to look at a specific research question, like you literally know what you're going to study, and you're going to emphasize on objectivity, being unbiased. For this aim, you have to just record some sort of behaviors. Let's say you have to do videotaping, that kind of stuff. You have to define exactly what kind of behavior you're going to observe, go back to the research question and having a specific research question. And you're going to just ask other people involved in the study, like your colleagues, other research assistants, to observe the same behavior and just make sure whatever you are just recording is just correct. And you're going to just, for example, observing the actual research question for that one. The question here is why we should ask like 2 or more people to just watch the same video over and over. Because like in observational study, you might actually have a hypothesis in your head, but at least other people, they don't know about the actual research question. And if they would watch the video and they would just have the same mindset as you, it can just help you to just make sure your study is correct. Just 100% focus on the research question. Oh, I love Dumbledore. But yeah, videotaping has different problems, but like one of them is just observer effect, which means that children, they can understand someone is just watching them. So basically they might change their behavior. So my question from you is how to prevent the observer effect. Do you have any solution for that? I will sip a tea, so you can think about that. But the answer is here. There are going to be two ways for that. Number one is you're going to put a camera somewhere and you're going to just do that as discreet as possible. Like, for example, if you want to like conduct a study in a room, you're going to put camera like in a corner so no one knows and they're going to behave in their normal way as okay. Another way going to be habituation. We already talked about habituation. I guess you remember that it was related to Pavlov study, right? Whenever you just expose children to camera over and over, they're going to just habituate to this situation, and they feel like having like a camera in the playground is just part of a routine. So basically they don't care. So they would behave the way that they would behave, right? So you have to make sure that you're gonna put the camera in the playground or wherever you want to conduct a study beforehand, like at least 1 week beforehand. Another way of descriptive research is surveys or interviews. You're gonna literally ask the participants your questions directly. It's gonna be either surveys like paperwork, or you're gonna just interview them one by one. Okay. There are going to be two ways for conducting surveys or interviews. It can be structured, or it can be open-ended question. So, what is a structured? Structure going to be pre-planned set of questions. For example, if I'm just conducting a research on smoking and health, I would ask someone, do you smoke? Question number one. And the question number two going to be like, how many times do you smoke? Okay. The question is just pre-planned. But if it would be open-ended, I would ask that, do you smoke? Okay, tell me more about that. Based on their answer, I would design the second question. Like it's gonna be so dynamic and so interactive, and you can just conduct and so time consuming, right? Because someone would just talk a lot, like for just one open-ended question, they can just say that, yeah, I smoke, but like yesterday I did that, my child was like that, so I was just so angry, I felt like I can just, do that. So it's gonna be time consuming, and just doing one-to-one interview can just cost a lot, because sometimes, I mean, majority of the time you have to pay people for transportation and for their time, because they are coming to your office, and they have to be rewarded for that time. So it can be expensive. But for survey, you can just conduct 1,000 interviews all at the same time, because it is all about paper, or it can be just recorded video by themselves. For example, if you go to SurveyMonkey, you can just see a lot of survey and interviews that you can just participate without even seeing the experimenter, right? So it is easier, it is really cheap, especially for experimenters, so just easier. And most of the time people would go for that, but sometimes you need some specifics about like people's personality, their honesty, and that kind of stuff. So you have to just do the interview one-to-one and in person. It just depends on the situation. So what is the pros of that? The pros is just so good. It's just affordable, less time consuming compared to one-to-one study or observational studies. The con's gonna be social desirability bias. Can anyone tell me what is social desirability bias? You can just Google, because I cannot see you. But it's important. It might be your quiz question, so go for that.